You're watching Education for Health Professional Regulators of Ontario, colleges under the Regulated Health Professions Act. Richard Steinica is a senior partner of Steinica Mikura LeBlanc, and he practices exclusively in the area of professional regulation. Richard is a noted author of the Complete Guide to the Regulated Health Professions Act, which, because of its comprehensive nature, has been cited by courts and tribunals, even in cases dealing with non-health professions. Marshall Molesky is the past president of the Federation of Health Regulatory Colleges of Ontario, and he serves as Chief Executive Officer and Registrar of the Ontario College of Pharmacists. Join Marshall and Richard now as Marshall poses a number of important questions on behalf of those of us who want to know more about regulating healthcare practitioners in Ontario.
What is conflict of interest?
Conflict of interest occurs when you participate in a decision where you could be reasonably affected by a competing personal or financial interest. And so a conflict of interest can be an actual conflict, it could be a potential conflict, or it could be a perceived conflict, all of which could cause equal harm to the college. And the interest doesn't have to be yours personally, it could also be the interest of a friend or a relative. So for example, if you were making a decision as a council member about whether something should be deemed to be part of the scope of practice of your profession, and you have a relative or a friend who is doing that and would have to stop doing it, that could cause a conflict of interest. Now, appearance of bias is a very related concept. It's a cousin to conflict of interest. But basically, it's a conflict of interest that arises when you're doing an adjudication.
So part of the fiduciary duty of a council and the committee members is to avoid conflict of interest and the appearance of bias.
Right. So you have to not participate in making a decision where there is a conflict of interest. That's the essential principle. And this duty is described in many college documents. Many colleges have a code of conduct for council and committee members. They have bylaws and they have governance documents which describe this. Decisions must be made only in the public interest without competing considerations appearing to or actually influencing the decision.
What are the consequences to a council or committee member for acting when in a conflict of interest?
Well, immediately you'll be discredited, as will the college, if there is a conflict of interest that's disclosed. You could be removed from the council or the committee that you're serving on. There could be liability to the college and even liability to you because you have a great protection for anything you do in good faith, but a deliberate conflict of interest could be viewed as something that was not done in good faith. And the decision, which could otherwise be a great decision, could be nullified, which could cause significant damage to the college or, more importantly, the protection of the public.
What are some of the common examples of conflicts of interest that need to be avoided?
There are so many ways you can get into a conflict of interest. You can't give an exhaustive list, but some of the issues that have arisen from time to time include the following. If you are in a leadership position in a professional association or a union, you cannot then be in a leadership position at the college. The mandates, as we said earlier, are inconsistent and there's an absolute conflict of interest. Most conflicts of interest, however, are not absolute like this. Most conflicts of interest depend on the circumstances, and depending on the circumstances, they may or may not be a conflict. So, for example, if you are an instructor at a school that trains members of the profession, on certain issues you might be a wonderful resource, and on other issues, for example, a decision that might cost the school a lot of money, you might have a conflict of interest. Similarly, you can't have a contract with the college. So if you are a lawyer or an accountant and serving on the council, you should not be providing services to the college. Gifts and hospitality are a particularly sensitive area. If you are given anything because of your position, or you're given something from a supplier or a stakeholder who deals with the college, you need to be very, very cautious. There are some exceptions. For example, a nominal or token gift, if you're given a plaque as an award, that might be acceptable. usual hospitality. If you're at a long meeting and they serve refreshments, that's acceptable. Or a small gift that's meant for the entire college, for example, a piece of art. However, if you are getting anything that you are walking out of the room with because of your status or role with the college, then make sure you contact the registrar and ascertain whether you're allowed to keep it or whether you need to return it or give it to the college. Another example would be assisting others who are dealing with the college. So if one of your colleagues or employees is having a complaint or another issue with the college, you can't be behind the scenes helping them. Or if you're dealing with the college personally, let's say a complaint's been made against you, you need to make sure that communications are all above board, that you communicate only in writing, that you don't attempt to influence the decision that's being made against you. You also need to be very careful about how you refer to your position at the college. So you shouldn't be referring to your position on council or committee in the signature block of your communications in your day job, nor should you be including those in any advertisements for your day job. It is probably acceptable in most circumstances to include that connection as part of your community involvement in your curriculum vitae or your resume that you're using for non-promotional purposes, but you do need to be cautious. Another part of conflict of interest is that the information you get even outside of the college could be something you need to disclose to the college. So for example, if you know that a colleague on the council or committee has a conflict of interest and they haven't declared it, you need to declare it. And you need to declare possible conflicts of interest for yourself.
In some of those examples, the conflict of interest is unavoidable. For example, what do you do if you're an instructor at a school and an issue affecting your school comes up on the council or the committee agenda?
First thing to do, if there's any doubt at all, consult. Consult with the president, consult with the chair of your committee, consult with the registrar. And then disclose and declare. It may be that it's completely innocuous, but if you tell everyone, hey, this is my relationship, this is my interest, this is my connection, declare it and have a discussion. If anyone thinks that, if anyone reasonably thinks that there is a conflict of interest there, then you need to take action. First of all, you would not participate in that decision. You would leave the room while that decision is being discussed. You would not try to influence the decision from outside of the room, and you'd make sure that your declaration was recorded in the minutes of the meeting.